So this is theories and concepts of international relations. I don't know the course code again. This is the second course, theories and concepts in international relations. The course outline is the topic there are number one, international relations, meaning nature, scope; two, perspective and approaches to international relations. Then under that, you look at liberal international relations, realism, pluralism, behavioralism, structuralism. Topic three, power, its nature and dimension. Number four, element of national power. Five, balance of power. Six, diplomacy, foreign policy. So if I can treat like four topics, that'll be fine. There's no time. So let's start with the number one, international relations, meaning nature and scope. So international relation is the study of relations among states and other actors within the international system. It focuses on the interaction among groups across territorial boundaries and how those relationships affect people, states, affect regions, and the world in general. So we can therefore say that the environment in which this contact take place is the international arena. Okay, so like many concepts in the social sciences and humanity or history, there is no universally accepted definition of international relations. Okay, nevertheless, no, if you could say that we can examine some of the definitions of international relations that has been put forward by notable or prominent scholars such as Simon Brown, all right, who defines international relations as the investigation and study of patterns of actions and interactions among sovereign states, as represented by their governing elite. So while this may be a laudable definition of international relations, it does not take into account other actors in the international system. So in other words, it is not only states and their government that are involved in or participate in international relations. Other actors like non-governmental organizations, all right, international organizations, multinational organizations, and many more others are also involved. For instance, when you look at the organizations like the United Nations, the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, the Red Cross, International Red Cross, the OPEC, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, and so on. These are multinational organizations whose activities also shapes international relations. So we go into definition. Carrying mist, one of the key, the most popular scholar who have defined international relations is Karen Mist in 2004. She defines international relations as a study of the interactions among various actors that participate in international politics, which includes states, international organizations, non-governmental organizations, subnational entities like the bureaucracies and local government and individuals. So another scholar again is Quincy Wright in 1955, who had defined international relations as a condition, and the study of that condition, that is the international system and the interaction that occur within the international system. So Quinn's definition is concerned with relations that take place beyond national boundaries and between groups of major importance, in the life of the world at any given period in history. In particular, those of territorially organized states. All right, so this is the concept. So there is also others. All right, like Stanley Hoffman, who define international relations as the discipline of international relations, all right, or a discipline of international, or he defined international relations as a discipline concerned with the factors and activities which affect the external policies and power of the basic unit into which the world is divided. And with all these exchange, transactions, contacts, flows of information, and the attending, and behavioral responses, between and among states, these kind of relations can be defined can be put under the concept of international relations. Okay, so in other words, international relations involve more than just state actors, according to the last definition. All right, it involves more than just state actors, but everybody living in the world as a whole. For instance, if the United States of America decide that they want to go to war with another country, so it is not only the people in the government of that particular country that will suffer the consequences, as we are already seeing with the case of the Russia-Ukraine war or the Israel-Palestinian. The global community is going to be drawn into these, these conflicts, all right, and no ordinary citizen in that country will be affected in one way or the other. For instance, again, the September 11 terrorists, September 11, 2021 terrorist attack, all right, on the U.S. not only affected the people of America, but also it led to the war, in Iraq, because the United States perceived that the sponsor, the masterminder, those who masterminded the operation were from Iraq. So which is definitely affecting which affected the people living in Iraq during this period. So you can see how the concept of international relations is framed. So that is to say that the whole essence of international relations affects all of us, despite the fact that you and I may not form part of the government of a particular country involved in hostility, but there may be one reason or the other for for us to move from one country to the other in case of crisis, as we have seen people moving from Palestine to Egypt to Lebanon and all of that. So our daily lives are becoming increasingly international in outlook, and with the improvement in communication and technology, we are constantly coming into contact with people, places, products, opportunities, ideas from other countries. Therefore, the study of international relations resembles it enables us to explain why international events occur in the manner in which they do, and give us a greater understanding of the world that we live and work. You could understand that. So I'll just say that let me look at some of the importance of. Okay, I think it is meaning, nature, and scope of international relations. So, by this short definition, we have been able to you have an helicopter view. So, what are the roles of theory or the different strands in international relations? So, we look at the perspective and approach in international relations. This is the second topic there on the outline. So, I'll just go into the second topic shortly. To complete the first topic, I think I didn't talk about the nature and scope of international relations. All right, that also deals with the levels of analysis in international relations. All right, it's part of the first topic. So, in the first recording, I mentioned that international relations include the study of the process of interactions of the actors in the international system, as well as the interactions themselves. So it involves the study of the politics of these interactions, their likely consequences, as well as the effect of these interactions on the international system. But how do we really study these interactions? This can be done through understanding the scope, or what I discuss as levels of analysis of international relations. And what do we mean by scope or level of analysis in international relations? So level of analysis refer to levels of generalizations that we use to help to understand highly complex problems in world politics. Okay, I say that again. Levels of analysis or scope refer to the level of generalization that we use to that we use to help us to understand highly complex problems in world politics. That is, it means the different ways by which international relations can be understood or can be studied, which would help us to understand these relations. It also means the level of the factors that affect international politics. Okay, so some scholars have suggested various levels or scope by which international relations can be analyzed, all right, or imagined, all right, ranging from 2 to 6, all right. But the most popular and frequently used is the one put or advanced by Kenneth Watts in his book The Man, State and War. In this case, Watts suggested three levels of analysis, all right, which is the state level, all right, the state level analysis and individual level analysis. Okay, he suggested three level of analysis. Again, the system level analysis, apology, the state level analysis and individual level analysis. Those are the three approach. So I'll take them in a sharp order now. The system level analysis, all right, is a world view that takes a top-down approach to analyzing international politics. So it is an approach to the study of world politics that argue that factors external to countries and the world political environment combine to determine the pattern of interactions among countries and other transnational actors. That is to say, understanding the structure and pattern of the international system will help us understand how international politics operate. For instance, countries are often forced to take certain courses of action by the realities of the world in which they exist, not because they want to take such communities. For instance, there are many countries that are law by the Western powers like United States, United Kingdom, or even or even international organizations like IMF and World Bank. For them to develop, for them to receive some aid or support from international organizations, certain policies or recommendations, some of these will say that your country will have to liberalize your trade, or you have to legislate LGBT law for also give you these loans or assistance. All right, and these are system level analysis, okay, whereby international systemic laws affect development at the level of the state level. Okay, do you understand what this is saying? So let me just jump to the state level. The state level analysis is a view which is concerned with the characteristic of individual country and the impact of those characteristics on the country's behavior. It is an analytical approach that argues that it is the internal attribute of a state that determines its relations with other countries in the international system. These attributes include, for instance, the type of government the state operates, whether it is a military, autocratic, authoritarian government, or a democratic system of government and all of that. Okay, so these attributes include the type of government the state operates, its level of economic development, characteristics of its society, and all of this. So therefore, from this point of view, it is by understanding the states that we'll be able to understand how international politics operate. And the third level of analysis is the individual analysis. So the individual analysis focuses on people. It is an analytical approach that argues that humans are the key actors in international relations, and this is because it is human beings that makes policies which will ultimately affect the international system. Okay, all right. So what that means is that there is need to examine the personality, perception, the choices and activities of policymakers. All right, it is by understanding how people decide and make policy that will be able to understand how international politics operate. All right, so in other words, international relations can be explained by looking at the nature of human beings. That is what the individual level of analysis is. So I think by this, we would have dealt with the three level of analysis. Okay. I wish there's more time for me to go down and practicalize that with you fundamentally. But the point is that these three levels of analysis have their own uses. There are ways in which they can be used in analyzing. All right, for you to define the concept, at this level, you just need to understand the way I've explained that. One of the number topic that is quite. I will still take others at the front. All right, let me take topic number 5. Balance of power. Let me take the topic balance of power so that I'll come back to the rest. So one of the major factors that determines how successfully a state can relate in the international system is power. So international relations depend a lot on power. No, as I'm going to explain to you now, the concept of power is closely associated with the theory of realism, all right, which I'm going to explain. Although all the other theories of international relations have something to say about the concept of power. So, like many other concepts in the social sciences, there is no agreement among scientists and historians, all right, on the definition of power, but we can it has been technically used to mean different things to different people. And Joseph Inye, for instance, know that power, like love, is easier to experience than to define or to measure. So, in general terms, we could say that power is considered as the ability of one person to control the actions of another person. Okay, so it is the ability to get others to do you want, what you want, even it is the ability to get people to do what they would not want to do naturally. All right. So in international relations, the concept of power is often used to describe the degree of resources, of capabilities, and influence states can exert in international affairs. All right, as you have seen, the United States trying to influence Ukraine because Ukraine needs the support of United States. United States is trying to exercise its hegemony to compel the president of Ukraine to sign a mineral deal. That before we can give you military aid, we have to tap your mineral resources and all of this. So these are ways in which power is defined. So, but let us consider some of the definition of power put forward by political scientists and other scholars. According to John Roque, power is defined as a political resource which encompasses the sum of the various elements that allow one country to have its interests prevail over the interests of another country. And another scholar like Hans Mogentel describe power. He argued that power may comprise anything that establishes and maintains the control of man over man. That is to say, power covers all social relationships which serve that end. From political violence to the most subtle psychological ties by which one might control another. For instance, the World Bank does not have military power. All right, but the World Bank can force any Africa or any countries in the third world, in the global south, to do what it wants to do. But the World Bank or IMF does not have military. But through subtle psychological manipulation, they could get countries to do what they want to do. All right, if not, they will not get any funding or support. So, and according to other scholars, power refers to the relations of subordination and superordination that exists among nations, pursuing conflicting goals and all those stuff. All right, so in a way, we can say from the above explanation I've just given, we could see that power has to do with control, and it can imply that even where voluntary compliance may not be forthcoming, force may be employed in a way. So in other words, power can also be used to change the action of others or to control the behaviors of other states. A good example is during the 1997 to 1998 confrontation between America and Iraq in relations to the inspection of the team of the United Nations weapon inspection team to Iraq. Iraq had insisted that the UN team could not visit some sites in his own country, including the presidential building within its territory, claiming that would violate the sovereignty of Iraq. But America insisted that Iraq must comply with UN resolution by allowing the inspection team to visit anywhere they wish within Iraq. So to make Iraq comply, America deployed sophisticated warships and submarines to the Gulf, and to prevent the war, Iraq reluctantly allowed the inspection team of US to inspect the presidential building. So this goes to show that the decision of America to exhibit its military might was a major factor in making Iraq comply. So, and I'll just give you a sharp, a few characteristics of power before talking about balance of power, itself. So, power is not static. Power is very, very dynamic. It is not static. It's very dynamic. That is, it is constantly undergoing changes in the international system. No, empires have been known to rise and fall. Some states were considered very powerful in recent past, but no, they were no longer as powerful as no before for various reasons, or may not even be in the future. So, for instance, the Roman Empire no lasted nearly 5 centuries, but is no longer in existence. And also after the Second World War, and for a long time, the Union of Socialist Soviet Republics, USSR, was a superpower, along with US, but it disintegrated, in the 1990s. Power is relative also. All right. Another characteristic of power is that power is relative. For a country to be described as powerful, it has to be compared to another country or other countries. For example, Nigeria can be described as powerful when it is compared with some other states in Africa and possibly some weaker third world countries like Togo, Benin Republic. But Nigeria cannot be described as being powerful when compared with the United States of America and some other European countries. Also, Nigeria cannot be considered to be powerful without comparison with any other country. So another characteristic of power is the power is situational. All right, a state's power varies depending on the situation or context in which it is applied. In other words, the response or action of a state in a particular situation does not really mean that it is its total capability. All right, power is also relational. Power involves relationships. It is exercised with respect to others. So a state can have power over some other states, not only when it can overcome the state in question or get it to do what it would not ordinarily do. All right, and according to Dye's conception of power, all right, A has power over B to the extent that he can get B to do something that B would not otherwise do. All right, so power is both objective and also subjective. Also, objective power consists of assets that you objectively possess, and that, like nuclear power, for instance, like North Korea would threaten, or Russia. All right, so objective power consists of assets that you objectively possess, that you have both capability or capacity and the will to use them. While subjective power is based on others' perception of your current potential, just like Hamas, when he went to attack Israel on October 2022, Abi, or 2023. So Hamas overestimated its power. He thought it would be able to overwhelm Israel, but you can see the disaster that has attended the Gaza Strip, and Palestine. After that, insensitive and subjective, overestimation of itself, by Hamas. So we are in all of this case. So this is a temporary definition of power. So I now tell you what balance of power is now. So the term balance of power is a term used in international relations or international economics. It is used to refer to balance of all economic transactions or political power between a state and the rest of the system. The main element of balance of power, okay, the main element of balance of power is that there is a equilibrium in the distribution of opportunities, capability, either military, political, economic, and whatever. All right, so balance of power again is a pervasive and indispensable concept, which is part of the stock in trade of both students and practitioners of diplomacy. It is regarded as by scholars as the ways in which equilibrium is achieved in international system, balance, the sharing of power among the leading hegemon, and I'm going to explain what it means. All right. So, for instance, Martin Wright, for instance, has distinguished 9 different meanings of the term balance of power. All right, it means according to him, an even distribution of power. 2, it also means the principle that power should be evenly distributed. 3, it is the existing distribution of power in a way that any possible distribution of power must go round. 4 is the principle of equal aggrandizement of the of power of all right. Oh, the principle of equal aggrandizement by great power at the expense of the weak. And 5, the principle that one side ought to have a margin of strength in order to avert the danger of power becoming unevenly distributed. These are the, and others are like predominance. All right. Also, there is also the idea of inherent tendency of international politics to produce an even distribution of power. So, balance of power is the ways in which influence is shared among the dominant powers. For instance, if you talk about the balance of power, you look at the capability. There have to be in terms of military might, economic strength. The two contesting sides must have the same amount of weight. For instance, during the First World War, the Allied powers, Britain, France, and Russia, had a certain level of capability. The Axis, Germany and the Balkans also have the same power. Or in the context of the United States, the West, and the BRICS, right, nation, relatively, there's a balance of power. The West, the United States, Britain, France, and all of that have some level of capability, either militarily or economically. But the BRICS nation, all right, the Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa also have some level of capability, although the balance of power might be uneven because one side is more stronger than the other. So balance of power deals with the even or uneven distribution of power among great powers in the international system. Take the second topic now on perspective and approaches to international relations. So in this topic, we'll look at the various theories of international relations, from liberal theories of international relations, realism, pluralism, behavioralism, structuralism, and so on. Okay, so this is, we'll start from realism. Realism, basically, which is, so in no particular chronological order. There are many theories of international relations, and these theories helps us to put into proper perspectives the happenings in the international arena, as I've earlier explained. So one of these theories is realism. In fact, it's one of the one that is usually regarded as the dominant one, realism. What is realism? Realism is about the oldest theory in international relations. Those who believe in this theory are called realists. Okay, realism can be traced back to Thucydides, Thucydides account of the Peloponnesian War around 431 BC between ancient Greek city-states of Athens and Sparta, and also to the book by Sun Tzu titled The Art of War, which he wrote about the same time during this period. So other notable realists include Augustine, Machiavelli, Thomas Hobbes, Karl Schmitt, and Mogentor, George Kennan, Henry Kissinger, and Kenneth Watts. All right, so these are some of the names in case you want to try to describe the proponent of realism, theory or perspective. So realism was a dominant theoretical tradition throughout the Cold War. During the period of the after the end of the Second World War up to the 1990s, realism was the prevalent economic tradition. It portrays international affairs as a struggle for power among self-interested states, and it is generally seen as a pessimistic school of thought about the prospect for eliminating conflict and war. Okay, so we'll look at the major strands and premise of this theory. So this theory was dominant in the Cold War years, as I've said, because it provided simple but powerful explanation for wars, for alliances, imperialisms, all right, and even obstacles to cooperation and other international issues. So the theory's emphasis on competition was consistent, all right, with the central features of the rivalry between America and the Soviet Union, the two superpower during in the aftermath of the Second World War and the Cold War period. The Cold War. So, who are realists? As I've said, realists are seen as pessimists. So, one of the basic assumptions of the realists is that human beings are naturally evil and selfish, and have the desire to dominate. And in this regard, this is consistent with the theoretical frames of Thomas Hobbes, who stated that if any two men desire the same thing, which nevertheless they cannot both enjoy, they become enemies, and endeavors to destroy or subdue one another. So the main emphasis of realism is power. All right, we must know that the main emphasis of realism is power and the pursuit of national interest. That is to say, realists believe that power is important in international politics, and that politics is about power, and the continual quest to acquire and use power is the underlying factor of international relations. To them, international politics, like all politics, is about the struggle for power. According to E.H. Carr, international politics are always power politics. For it is impossible to eliminate power from them. That is what E.H. Carr said. While Hans Mogentor also posited that whatever the ultimate aims of international politics, power is always the immediate aim. So the realists also argue that states are the most important actor in the international system. So all these states are seen as selfish actors who always seek to maximize their own interests, even at the cost of risking benefits that more than one state can share. For example, I'm sure you are aware of the crisis in the Middle East, which has been there since 1948. So most especially the war between Israel and the Palestinians. So some people have argued that instead of the two sides spending so much more on acquiring weapons to fight themselves, the money should have been used for social and economic development of that region, which will be to the benefit of everyone. For realists, the state is the basic unit of analysis. According to them, all states are basically alike in their aims and intentions. You can see. So therefore, it does not matter if a state is a democracy, a fascist dictatorship, a theocracy, or a monarchy. This is because all of them act according to the factors of power, and anarchy and not on their own. They act on the factor of power and anarchy, and not on their stated ideology. In other words, since the international system is anarchical, according to the realists, one in which there is no central universal government, states would always acquire power to protect themselves against the uncertainty of the world. And this explains why many states, you wonder why many states are building nuclear power. What do they need nuclear power for? Why is India now joining to build nuclear energy? Why is China building nuclear weapon? North Korea, all right, apart from the major superpower like Britain, France, and US and all of that. Why are medium powers also trying to aspire to be nuclear power? All right, this is consistent with the realists, say that the international system is anarchic. So everybody wants to have power, access to power for self-preservation, for defense, and a means of strategy. So they therefore must rely on their own arms and resources for their continued influence in the world. So states, according to realists, see other powerful states as rival because of power, and because when power is not in their hands, they become threatened. All right. So every state in the international system, according to the realists, would want to have access to power, either nuclear power or military power, for them to become relevant. That is why there's a major question that as money is for human survival, how is money how is power to the survival of state in the international system. So this quotation is consistent with the realist frame, the perception about the international system. Do you understand? And so there are 6 principles also of realism. all right, which I need to explain. In order to explain the basic principle of realism, Hans Mogenta emphasized in his book, Politics Among Nations, and he says that he highlighted six principle of realism. One is political realism, which believes that politics, like society in general, is governed by objective law, that have their roots in human nature. In order to improve society, it is first necessary to understand laws by which the societies live. All right. They also believe that the main signpost that helps political realism to find its way through the landscape of international politics is the concept of interest defined in terms of power. All right. So three, the realists also believe that assume that power is key concept. Power is as a key concept. The IRL is shaped by interest, defined in terms of the uses of power and the validity of it. All right, and there is also number four, which sees political realism, which says that political realism is aware of the moral significance of political action, and that is why many states seeks to use power to back their political influence in the international arena. All right, I think I can just skip. So the basic assumptions of realism is that sovereign states are the key actors in international relations. Two, states are rational actors motivated by a desire for power and the pursuit of national interest. Three, the central problem in international relations is the condition of anarchy, which means the lack of central authority, sovereignty authority to regulate relations between states. And four, the realists assume that the aggressive intent of states combined with lack of what government means that conflict is an ever-present reality. So that if the United Nations or AU, all of these are not in existence, then conflict will be an everyday reality. All right, and so they also see that international institution and law play a role in international relations, but are only effective if backed by force or effective sanctions. And this is one of the things, according to realists, that is undervaluing the United Nations today. So, what are there are also different strands of realism. Anyway, there are classical realism and there are neoclassical. There's new realism and all of these, but I think you didn't. There's no need to bother yourself about all of these one aspects. I would now go to maybe liberalism and behavioralism and structuralism now. Let's go to liberalism. Liberalism is one of the key theories of international relations. No, it is derived from the writings of such European Enlightenment philosophers as John Locke, 1632 to 1704, then Jean Rousseau, right, 1712 to 1778, and Immanuel Kant, 1724 to 1804. So, what are the major thrusts of liberalism? It is often understood as the opposite of realism. This is because while realism is seen as a pessimist theory, as I've mentioned, liberalism is seen as an optimist theory. Unlike realists, liberals have a positive view of human nature. They believe in the power of human reason. They and believe that rational principles can be applied to international relations. That is, according to them, it is true that human beings are self-centered, all right, and competitive, up to a point, but they also share many interests in common, according to the liberal theorists. They believe that human beings share certain some interests in common, and cooperative social action is therefore possible. So they therefore note that human beings can learn to cooperate, to improve their lives. The prospect of economic, technological, and cultural benefit may give states reasons to cooperate with other states. To the liberals, conflict and war are not inevitable. This is because human reasons can always triumph, over human fear and the lust for power. So while liberals also acknowledge the central role of the state, they believe that states are not the only significant actors in the international system. They argue that bodies like the United Nations, UN, the EU, European Union, and actors such as multinational corporations, non-governmental organizations like Amnesty International and Greenpeace are as significant as the states in the international system. So liberals do not share the realist assumption that power is the means by which state security is guaranteed. They believe rather that security can be guaranteed by other means. Also, like realists, liberals accept that anarchy is a fundamental condition of the international system, but no, they are more optimistic that realists. They are more optimistic than realists about the opportunities for cooperation between states. So, essentially, liberals believe international relations evolve through small changes over time. Okay, so liberals focus, for instance, on the interdependence of the world countries and the mutual benefits they can gain through cooperating with each other. Unlike the anarchists, the realists who are anarchists who believe that every situation must be resolved by by means of conflict or anarchy. So unlike realists, liberal believe that cooperation together, but cooperation of all nations could be a way in which peace or amicable resolution is achieved. They also think gaining actual wealth is more important than acquiring more power relative to other countries. They believe that economic wealth or basis should be the means of power, not military might, not nuclear energy. So liberals tend to see, but of course, this theory, this assertion can be debunked because even the most liberal countries like the United States and the UK, they have been the one who have amassed and built the most devastating, catastrophic weapon of mass destruction ever in history. So liberals tend to see war not as a natural tendency but as a tragic mistake that can be prevented or at least minimized by international agreements, conventions, and even through international organizations. So for better understanding of liberalism, you can cite works like Evans and Newman, all right, who old core beliefs of classical liberalism in international relations, including the following. I will mention them. They said that peace can best be secured through the spread of democratic institutions on worldwide basis, and that a natural hegemony of interest will ensure people and states ensure that people and states make rational calculations which make national interest and international interest more preserved. So they argue that if dispute occur, that state or international states in the international system should settle them by established judicial procedures under international rule of law and all of that. And also, they share the idea that collective security would replace the notion of self-help, that rather than you just resort to anarchy at the slightest provocation, as you saw during the outbreak of the First World War, with the death of Archduke Ferdinand, all right, that that provocation alone, that collective security, people should come together to say, okay, let's protect each other, and have amicable agreement and all of that. So we can conclude from the above, therefore, that liberalism is a theory that places much faith in the capacity of human beings to solve their problems without resorting to war. According to the liberals, the world is a harsh and dangerous place, but the consequences of using military power often outweigh the benefits. Do you understand? So international cooperation is therefore in the interest of every state. So that you don't need to go to war, you need to negotiate. So to them, military power is not the only form of power. Economic and social power, no matter a great deal too, than even nuclear energy. So exercising economic power, as China has been doing, has proven more effective than exercising military power. Mostly, China has been rising economically without really emphasizing the need for war with the United States, in spite of all the sanctions that has been imposed. So it is true that different states often have different primary interests, but international rules and organization can help foster cooperation, trust, and prosperity. Okay, so the liberals believe that participation in international institutions, free trade, economic interdependence, and shared democratic norms and ideas, will greatly increase the prospect of peace in the international arena. That is the so then neoliberalism. No, there's no. Okay, let me go to maybe structuralism and all this stuff. Structuralism. So we are still on this outline number two. We are looking at the various perspectives and approaches to international relations. We've talked about realism and liberalism. So let me just talk structuralism and maybe one more and I'll stop. So structuralism is a theory of international relations which stresses the impact of war or the impact of world economic structures on the political, social, and cultural and economic life of countries. Okay, so structuralists argue that global economic relations are structured in such a way that it benefits only certain social classes, which makes the international system to be fundamentally unjust. And that is very true. So it is important for you to know that structuralism is not the same as Marxism, but it is clearly based on Marx's idea. Although I should have mentioned Marxism, but it's not on your outline. All right, but structuralism is inspired by Marxism anyway in its approach to international relations. All right, so Marxism is often dismissed as ideological, but the structuralists makes their claim on the basis of what they regard as scientific analysis. So what is structuralism? Looks at the structure of the world capitalist system, which is seen as interconnected set of social, economic, and political relations, which collectively constitute a structure. According to the structuralists, the contemporary world is constituted by a global capitalist system, all right, and a corresponding interstate system. That is to say, if I want to say, if a fundamental feature of this order is inequality, no exploitation, all right, as Karl Marx has noted. So according to structuralists, the world is divided between the haves and the have-not. The have-not. Okay, so between the poor and the rich. All right. So relations between states in this sense is they are structured hierarchically. All right, between those who are wealthy and powerful, which they refer as the core. All right, and those who are poor without much influence, which they refer as the periphery. So there is also the horizontal structure of class relationship between elites, in both core and periphery countries, according to structuralists. Okay, so the structuralists see the elites of the core periphery countries, sharing fundamental interest in supporting the present system of exploitation because they actually benefit from the exploitation of other social groups. All right, so according to them, capitalism is based on the exploitation of the poor by the rich countries. All right, the way the global north countries exploit the global south. So in pursuing their own class interests, the rich countries in the international system are able to maintain their position by their exploitation of the poor countries, as you have seen the US, France, UK, all of these, Russia exploiting the conditions of the sub-Saharan African countries. So in line with Marxism, many structuralists see classes as the dominant actors in international relations. Despite the importance of states, they don't see analysis in the international relations discourse as a reflection of anarchy or states ownership of stuff, or so they see class problem as a major issue to contend with in international relations. So they see state as the instrument used to bring about the rule of the dominant classes, as a channel for class oppression, or as a relatively autonomous entity which plays an important role in facilitating capitalist expansion and supporting an unjust economic order. Do you understand? So I'll go to the basic. So structuralists also dismiss the interdependence notion of liberalism. They argue that no, the world cannot be interdependent. No, they argue that no, there cannot be no fairness, no, as much as the world power. All these people exploiting resources either in the periphery, and they are all capitalist class. All right, no, that it is not the state itself as a responsibility. It's oligarchs, some powerful people in the state, no, that uses this state as instrument of oppression, as you have seen, no, Putin himself, no, according to structuralists who say does not represent the state of Russia. He represents only the capitalist, the world capitalist class, disguising, no, to be protecting the interests of Russia. All right, but it's only protecting the interests of the oligarchs, the capitalist elite. Ditto for no Emmanuel Macron in France, no Donald Trump. These people, according to structuralists, do not really have the interest of the state at heart. Rather, it is the interest of the capitalist elite, that they parade in the international arena. So, what are the basic assumptions of structuralism? Is that number one, the nature of international relations is profoundly shaped by the structure of the capitalist world economy or the capitalist world system. Okay, they mean that number two, that international politics is shaped by or even determined by economic factors, not really by military political considerations. And number three, that the main actors in international politics, are states, multinational and transnational corporations, and transnational social classes. Number four, they mentioned that states reflect the interest of dominant classes rather than the existence of a genuine national interest, which I've mentioned. And they state that capitalism is a fundamentally unjust social and economic order which generates conflict and disharmony. All right, according to the structuralist. So these are the key. So what the question you might ask you is to comment or analyze any three of these perspective or approach to international relations. You must be able to do justice based on these explanations.